This might be close to the first controversial video I've ever done in terms of a topic where some might agree, some might disagree, but what we're going to find out is what my experience has been based on my just genuine experience with doing Facebook ads in the time. So the question in the video on this one is, are Facebook adverts profitable for vintage? In short, I would say that all Facebook adverts are profitable for businesses. It's all about relativity with how you use them. So to give some backstory, I guess, to how I've used Facebook ads in the time, when I originally started doing them, it was perhaps a year into running the own website. And at the beginning, I think what you'll find with Facebook marketers, and I'm sure they won't like me saying this, but a lot of people create a lot of promises that aren't accurate. You might get people messaging you and going, we can make you, we can do you a 20x. Look at this company that's done the same. And just for reference, if they're showing you a company that's not vintage or secondhand and using that as an example, please don't trust it. Not that it's not accurate, not that they haven't done that, but you have to look at things with some subjectivity to their relativity. If you are looking at a brand that is not the same as what you do, then the figures aren't accurate. Plus, there's just a lot of subjectivity. So let me go back to why I started Facebook ads. A company reached out to me, I think a year into what we was doing, and they basically said, if we do a free month and show you that we're valuable, will you sign a retainer and have us do your ads? And I was thinking, that is exactly where I want to be doing it, as in working with somebody who is going to essentially offer their service free of charge to prove what they can do. And then afterwards, if it still sits and works with where we are, then it makes sense. And lo and behold, it did. And they proved their worth. So when I started doing Facebook ads, I wasn't really sure what I had as an expectation out of it. This was the first bit of I'd say, marketing that we'd really done, aside from just organic Instagram. So it was definitely something that I was thinking, okay, not sure how this is going to go. We'll take it as a free thing, still having to pay for the ad space, but was aware of, the law of 4 with how I approach things, which is I still needed to get a 4 ROAS, which is obviously a rate of return on what my investment was in Facebook terms. So when we started it, a lot of what we did was just flat base, like this. Basically what I'm doing now, this is, and also, sorry if I'm heavy breathing, I'm actually not unfit, but I have no excuse. I don't know why I'm heavy breathing. So if you hear that, it's just because it sounds like I'm constantly walking up and down the stairs. I'm not, obviously. You can see I'm not. I'm just bending my knees. That's what happens when you get to 30. But I was using flat-laid content similar to this, and I was posting that on adverts. So when we did that, initially, we got success from it. I can't remember the numbers of what we did, but when we initially started things, we were in good positions. I can't complain with how things began. It was obviously why we continued. I think they probably got us to around about a 5 or 7x, and we sort of just went from there. So once we started to, I guess, scale, because the thing with Facebook is how it works is it's a bit like once you start it and once you get a taste for the success that you could have, you're kind of led down that route of you're going to need to spend a bit more in order to keep generating the same thing, or just, it's very hard to not get caught up with the temptation of scaling, or as a lot of people will call it, aggressively scaling. And that's sort of what we did. That's where a lot of our early recognition came from with the own website, was probably the leverage from selling on ASOS, and using a lot of capital to self-fund, in the end, this massive growth through Facebook and advertisements. You know, if you're advertising your company and you're getting all these thousands of traffic hits to the website every day, then they'll convert. And they did convert, you know. Still to this day, I just think I had a good approach of what I was doing, and I didn't see many people that were using models. But the question I want to get to is, are Facebook adverts profitable for vintage? Now, I'm going to answer that because I think all of them are. But what I want to draw attention to is where I think you have to be careful with Facebook ads through being a vintage and second-hand company. And I know this from the experience that I've had from many other companies at the time of advertising, and I know this from basically first-hand knowledge of what experiences we had. And this is kind of like spending a lot of money on traffic that might not connect and end up wasting you a lot of time. So what do people do that sell vintage when they advertise? They show their best bits. Fair, understandable. But what also are you actually doing? You're showing, because obviously when you work with vintage and second-hand, you have to show individual items. The same way somebody that might sell, you know, say Fruit of the Loom do an advert and they're selling a blank sweatshirt. It's fine. They've got 10,000, they've got an unlimited supply of that one item. Whereas when you do second-hand or vintage, if you advertise one specific item, you're probably not going to have that in an abundance of supply. So what's going to happen is you're going to spend a lot of money on one photo to be displayed on an advert, and there's going to be a percentage of that audience that see it that go, hey bro, hey man, hey, where's that Ralph Lauren all over print sweatshirt from the advert? And the chances are, once you actually upload the advert, and if you've got that product online at the time, the chances are, as soon as the right person sees it, they'll just buy it anyway. Then you end up running adverts with inaccurate content because it's very difficult to maintain that management of displaying things that you have in stock. You know, a lot of people will just show you a few options of like Nike and then say, shop Nike here, or, you know, shop sportswear here. So they keep it, you know, as vague as, not vague, but they keep it more open-ended. And I think that's obviously how you do it in a smart way. But the issue is, especially with vintage and second-hand, is because of the unique, specific nature of what you're looking at, when people actually see an advert with that product, they want that product. You might have loads of alternatives that are just as good. Don't get me wrong. I'll vouch for it. I know that they're just as good. But to the untrained audience or the customer that's being targeted through an advert, they see that product and they want that product. So I think that's one of the biggest frictional points that selling vintage and doing second-hand through adverts can cause, is that when you focus on a specific product, you have to be prepared for essentially wasted traffic being thrown at people who might not find the product they're looking for. Now, like I told you just then, that approach with generalizing things by, you know, shop sweatshirts, shop this, that gives it a good sort of level of variation. You might still have those people that are like, hey, what's that item, that orange sweatshirt, Polo Sport, can I get that? Chances are it's sold, bro. So obviously not, but they see it on an advert and will assume that product. So that's their natural, you know, seeing the advert, correlating it to that. Now, I think wholesalers of vintage, I think they can have quite a lot of success because obviously they're appealing to people who are buying to resell, who already know the audience. But when you're trying to market it to people who are wanting to buy the products, you will fall into some sort of difficult times when people want to look for the exact item you're showing. So, Spencer, that's all good and well. Now I know that. How do I actually avoid that, or what did you do? So, how I started to avoid it, or how I started to, I would say, diversify that traffic being hit, I basically didn't want people to see things that they would just want to buy. So I used models, I used visual videos, and I used things where you was either seeing a lot of products quickly or you were seeing like just a model wearing a look. I tried to sell a look and an image and a lifestyle like representation through the adverts, rather than saying, we've got these Carhartt tops and we've got this, because you've just got to remember, unless you've got that for days and you've got multiples of them, well, then you're not a vintage secondhand store, so it kind of negates that. But I would say that they are profitable, but you really, really have to be mindful of how you advertise through Facebook, especially with like brand transparency of what you have versus, you know, what somebody will experience and see and what they actually end up seeing when they go on the website. Don't get me wrong, I'm pretty confident that a lot of people have success through Facebook to this day, because there's still people running adverts. My thing would be as well, still on the theme of the law of 4, if you're not hitting a 4 times return on an advert, then for me, it's not viable. You might think that that's also quite tough, like if you're just making ×2 return, what's the problem? But I think that the law of 4 gives you that breathing space to explore different ideas, simpler. So anyway, I've panted and breathed enough talking about Facebook ads and all that sort of stuff. If you've got any opinions, or feel free to drop a comment with what your experience is, or if there's something in particular that you maybe want me to cover, and I'll be happy to do it. And I'll be back again for another video tomorrow.